안녕하십니까.
Hello everyone, my name is Min-chul. I'm from the Korea Airports Corporation. I'm honored to be here with all of you at this technical meeting. So KAC is operating 14 airports across Korea, excluding Incheon Airport. So we have headquarters for the navigating the routes for the aero vehicles. We are overseeing all those navigation routes for air vehicles, and we are also providing trainings for pilots, and we also operate various kinds of ground facilities as well. So we have abundant experience in operating and managing various kinds of airport-related facilities. So we believe that we have very much of strength to operate such kind of facilities for a new kind of vehicles, such as vertiports. So we are operating airports well. I'd like to explain how we select sites for airports or vertiports. So the vertiport is a core infrastructure of the UAM infrastructure. So it takes about 40%, according to the Munich University's research. They expect the vertiports will take up about 40% of the UAM infrastructure, while the Korean research expects about 20%. So, in a simple term, it would cost around 20,000 won over the total 100,000 won for vertiports. So, as you know, all the cities, many of the cities across the country are highly populated. Well, we have existing helipads on the rooftops in these densely populated regions, but it is difficult to utilize this existing heliport for new type of aerial vehicles. So, which is called UAM. So we believe that it will be challenging to build UAM vertiports in highly populated regions. There are many factors that need to be taken into consideration, such as accessibility, obstacles, land, public acceptance, and energy. And as you know, we also need to consider noise factors as well as charging facility, because we need to have super fast charging facilities. So where should we build these vertiports? Overseas, there are Joby, Aviations, or other leaders, UAM leaders. They are better positioned to build vertiports because they have large land compared to Korea. So, compared to those kind of countries which have large land, Korea's situation is a little bit different. We face a lot more challenges to build vertiports because we are a small country with high density of the population. Well, so it is. Vertiport is not like bus. There are three different ways to build vertiports. First is to build vertiports in a closely related regions, such as as we would build bus or taxi stops. And second, we can build it in a more mid-sized regions. And third, we can build it in a more wide areas. As I've said, we need to take many factors into consideration before building vertiport, including land costs, high-rise buildings, public acceptance, traffic, and public transportation. Let's see the phases for vertiport site selection. The first phase is to determine UAM vertiport, determine the UAM demand in cities. Then we can identify the required number of UAMs in the city. And there will be some of the demands. Some of the passengers who used to use existing transportation modes would convert to UAM when it is popularized in the future. So there will be some passengers who would convert to use UAM. So according to our research, people say that they will be willing to take UAM from Seoul to Jamsil for a cost of 50,000 won. About 5% of the people said so. So we need to calculate this. We did a calculation taking these kind of things into consideration with 5 to 7% of the conversion rate. So this is what we will do for the phase 1. And the next phase is phase 2. In phase 2, we need to select UAM service area, which is more a wide area. And the next step would be phase 3. So in phase 3, we will select vertiport location within this UAM service areas. There will be economic, technical, and social factors that we need to take into consideration, and we need to weigh these different factors to build the most, to select the most optimal site for vertiport. So I have the vertiports can be large, medium size, or small size. But building a large vertiport would be really challenging because it would require MRO services. It needs to be a hub. So it would be difficult for us to build such kind of verti-hub in a large scale in the metropolitan region or at the center of the city. So we expect that we could build this large-scale verti-hubs at the suburbs. So within the cities, we will be able to build more smaller-sized vertiports. So this is. So we plan to utilize. The existing Gimpo airport to build a large-scale verti-hub. So you can watch the footage on next project, or you can also type in verti-hub or verti-hub in Seoul on YouTube. So this is what we will do in phase 1 to determine the demands for UAM in city. So this is the formula that we use to calculate conversion rate. So if we were to conduct a survey, we could drive the demand for UAM for the people at the time being, but it is better that we advance and further develop this kind of models to better forecast the future demand for the UAM among the people. And let's move on to the step 2. So after determining the UAM demand, we need to select the site. So we need to locate this vertiport in a place with a high demand. So where would be the places with high demand for UAM? It would be the areas with high traffic demand or highly congested regions. So according to the Korea Transport, these are the heat map data based on the KTDB or the Korea Transport Database. So on the left-hand side, on the far left, we have Gimpo Airport and Incheon. And on the upper side, we have Uijeongbu. And on the southern side, we have Suwon, Dongtan, Hwasong, and Yongin. And these are some of the potential places for vertiports. So this is an example. Let's say that we need to build 10 UAM vertiports in Seoul. So using this heat map, we can locate the candidate sites for vertiports, the UAM service area, excuse me. And moving on to the next phase, which is a step 3. In this stage, we can select the site for the potential sites. So time is one of the most important factor that we need to consider in this process. So in order to reduce time that is spent for traveling, we need to make sure that there is nothing that decrease traffic in the sky. So the people need to access vertiports within 10 minutes or so, which is about 4 kilometers radius. And as for the service area, we believe it should cover about 4 kilometers in radius. So in Gangnam, we can create a circle with a radius 4 kilometers for the service region, which covers COEX, GBC, Seoul Medical Center, Jamsil Stadium, and Tancheon Public Parking Lot. And using the criteria that we have, we can evaluate and select which would be best among these 5 candidate sites. So as I've said, we need to take into consideration economic factor, technical factor, and social factor in the process. As for the economic factor, we need to consider land cost, accessibility, and rental fee. As for the social factor, there's noise and visual effects, and law and policy. As for the technical factors, the ease of construction and energy and safety. Some of the technical factors in phase 3 should be weighed based on criteria. So we need to, our potential site needs to meet all the requirements based on these 3 factors. So this is our plan. In this plan, there will be hub and ports. So based on conversion rate, by 2030 in Seoul, we believe 160 vehicles will fly over the sky in Seoul. So at night, we need to build a storage or maintenance facility for these vehicles, when it doesn't fly the skies at night, to build that kind of facilities, we need about 300,000 square meters of area. And it will be difficult for us to build that kind of warehouse within Seoul metropolitan region. So it would be better for us to build those kind of warehouse facilities in the suburb. So we believe the best model would be hub and spoke model in the metropolitan region. And we believe at least one hub would be needed in small to medium-sized cities. And so it will fly at around 50 meters above the ground at the angle of 12 degrees. So there's a little bit of calculation going on when UAM, suppose that UAM is flying at an angle of 12 degrees, then within a radius of 100 meters, there shouldn't be any obstacles to ensure the smooth operation and flight of these vehicles. And as I've said, time factor is of utmost importance. That is why supercharging is needed. We believe that about 1 megawatt would be needed to charge one vehicle. And if suppose that we build this kind of vertiport on the rooftop, and if they kind of without expanding the capacity for electricity for that existing building, there might be blackouts in the nearby for that building or in the nearby region. So we need to think about the capacity of the electricity for that as well. And we also need to take into consideration of the law. As you can see, there are various kinds of laws that we need to take into consideration. And there's airside design. So for this, we need to make sure that we provide sufficient airspace to avoid collision in the sky. And to transfer from one vertiport to another vertiport, we need to ensure the fastest transportation and operation. And we also need to consider topology and scale. To build the most effective vertiports, we also need to take into consideration of the scalability of such facility. And there are many literatures, but unfortunately, there are not many criteria that we in the literature about this vertiport site selection. So these are some of the few examples which describes vertiport site selection criteria in a few literature. And according to the NASA's UAM Vision Concept Operations UAM maturity level, it features some kind of explanations, and it also says that it is important to consider the noise level when building the vertiports. And the site selection criteria are pretty similar to the criteria for existing airports, and FAA and ICAO do have these kind of criteria, and those in yellow are the common criteria. And these are some of the criteria provided by FAA. We also need to consider all these factors. And according to the Kogan report, we need to think about land cost, the airspace flexibility, noise migration, and scalability. So we need to think about all these kind of factors in these 3 stages. So
수요가 많은 지역 내에서의 세부 지역을 구성을 할 때는
when providing and building vertiports in areas with high demand, we can utilize open spaces such as public parking lot or park near CBD. And the government, we can also receive support from the government with less restrictions for these open areas. And later, we might be able to build these kind of vertiports in across small rivers or in new places, or we can also utilize. We might be able to utilize existing gas stations. 20 years or 13 years into the future, we will be able to see various kinds of vertiports across the country. So I have already touched upon step 1, 2, 3, vertiport site selection process. And I have also mentioned some of the important factors that we need to take into consideration while selecting such sites. So the vertiports for the UAM, should we scale this UAM, and will these UAM vertiports be different from the existing airports? And we need to think all these factors and criteria. Thank you so much.